Hey everyone.
My word.
Yeah.
Good morning.
Good morning. And
Hi,
good
Sam.
afternoon.
Hi, Jules.
Yeah.
How's it going, everyone?
Great.
So I'm just doing silly stuff to make you laugh, I feel.
Yeah, no.
It's good. Laughter is good. It gets the energy going, it loosens up all, just gets us loose and ready.
That's right. So Sumit, I don't know if you know, but Shar is not going to be joining us this today because she is getting scuba certified.
Yeah, Jules just told me. It sounds really, really exciting.
Yeah. So she has
with her.
So it'll be fun. And then fun for her. We'll see what the story is when she gets back. I mean, she's in Mexico. She's been chased by alligators and and moved several times and
the house is falling apart and then she bought a house.
Yeah, that's right. She's gotten a lot of things are going on in her life there, so it's great.
Well, it's an adventure and
right. So, but how are things been going with you, Sumit? I mean, are life getting back to normal in India there?
So we've been hit by what's being called the second wave, and no alligators, no scuba diving, no buying houses. So what you've just been saying makes me feel like my life's dull and unexciting for sure.
Yeah.
But yeah, I can do without alligators for sure.
Yeah. Right. Well, I'm hoping that that things in the U.S. are getting better with the pandemic. Of course, I mean we have a lot of the vaccinations that are going around, and matter of fact, my daughter is getting ready to go to New York to give vaccinations. Because there's a special. I mean, she got hired for a special mission to go out there and just give shots to people because she's an EMT.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Yeah, wow. So she's excited to do that. It's just a different place, and then it'll pay for her. And she's going to be a paramedic next, and then on her way to be a nurse, and then potentially a doctor. And so just working in New York for a month will pay for her entire paramedic program. So
that's great.
Yeah, so she's looking forward to doing that.
Smart girl. That's the way to do it. When they're paying for like training or your travel or something like that, that is so smart. That's the way to go about it.
Yeah. So it's going to be great.
Yeah, if she's nursing or working as a doctor, I mean, she's always going to have a job. So.
Yeah, that's right. So lots of things going on. So just for our listeners out there, we're just having a chat as we're coming to the top of the hour. We're going to start in about 5 minutes. And if you're just tuning in, okay. So as you're just tuning in, Char's going to be joining us, and our Char's not going to be joining us this week because she's scuba diving, and she's getting certified. So we'll see. We won't have her this week, but next week she should be here. Yeah. So
a skill to add to the toolbox.
Yeah, exactly. So
I'm too scared of deep water. Like I just can't go, I grew up in a country full of great white sharks. So I'm trying to go deep in the sea.
Yeah. No, but that sounds a lot of fun. I mean, I got certified in scuba when I was in college because I had a job and doing that kind of stuff. But I always dreamed about going to the Great Barrier Reef and checking that out. And so hopefully I can make it there before global warming has its way with it too much.
Yeah.
But it's when I started off in scuba diving, I did a underwater videography in Southern California, and so I would dive and do video shoots underwater, like you see on TV,
Yeah.
And so
cool.
Yeah, and so I worked with we did these projects with Bob Ballard, who's the guy that found the Titanic and all that kind of stuff, and we were doing these. We would be down underwater, and I'd be filming these professors because we'd be doing live broadcasts to colleges, and people would be watching this live, and the professor would pull out a fish, have a fish, and goes, "Oh, this is whatever," and we're all doing this with these masks on and so forth, and I'd be filming, and we're in this place where there's just this huge heavy surge, underwater, this where the water was pushing. And so, you had to grab onto something on the ocean floor, and I'm there, filming, going back and forth as best as I can. And then all of a sudden he's like talking, he's like, oh, this fish does this. And all of a sudden he goes, boom, and he just takes off.
On the live stream, everyone saw that.
Yeah, on the live stream. Yeah. And it's like, and I'm like he goes, oh, he'll be back in just a minute. And then so he comes back and he's all like, and he's all dispositioned as he's trying to fly another thing to hold on to,
And was he okay? Did he like get thing?
Oh, no. It was just a surge, like the water just, like he pushes back and forth. So.
Wow, that's something I didn't know about you, Sam. Now I learned something today.
Yeah, we all have our little skill sets, but diving is I mean, it's a fun thing to do, underwater and seeing the different environment. But going down in scuba gear is very clumsy. I mean, it's got to put on all this stuff. You got to watch all your gauges, and and it's just it's not as fun because of all that, because you have to clear your nose, so you can, the pressure, and so there's a lot to it. But
and then, like, I guess the oxygen tank, you need to know like how far down you can go, right, and how long it's going to last you, and
how far down for how long. You have to plan things out ahead of time. Yeah, so it's fun, but it's it takes a lot of effort.
Mm-hmm. I'll just stick to my usual like snorkel like on the surface of the reefs and just
that's much more enjoyable. You can kind of just go along and do your thing. So we have about 1 more minute and we're going to get started here. So
just been enjoying some fun stories.
Talking about scuba diving. So it's Shar is currently not going to join us today because she's getting certified. So we're talking about that. That's the great thing about today's work and work life. I think that this will be a theme more for the future, as far as just having more flexibility in what we're doing at work and outside of work, and intertwining our lifestyle into that. I mean, I think that one thing that the pandemic has shown for everyone is that, life is threatened, and it can be short, and we need to enjoy the time while we have it here. And so I think that's spurred a change in the workplace, where people are looking for that flexibility so that they have a freedom to do what they need to do in life. So
100%. And I think that just having that flexibility, it just makes people happier, because now they have a little bit more time with their family, or to pursue things that they've always wanted to do. I think it just makes people much happier. And when you're much happier, you bring that to the work, and it's just good for everybody. The management, the employees, the overall workplace. It just creates a whole different vibe, as opposed to just, oh, I'm always too tired because I work 50 hours a week. And now
And that is the big topic that we're going to be talking about today.
Yeah, perfect segue.
Perfect segue. So we have a lot of people joining now. So let's go ahead and kick things off, Jules.
Hi, everyone. I see a few familiar faces joining us today. This is exciting. Abdallah, hello. I can't wait to see you interacting with us today. I know I can rely on you for that. So welcome, everyone, to the People Strategies Forum. We're very excited to have you here. Whether you're tuning into us from Zoom or Facebook or LinkedIn or some other streaming platform, welcome. And if it's your first time here, we really want to welcome you. It's called the People Strategies Forum. We host this each and every week. We show up all the time. So we invite you to not just come today, but for the, going into the future. And a little bit about what we do here. As you can see on the screen here, Sam's just shared the screen with us. This is a mastermind of leaders, and what we aim to do is create workplaces where people thrive, where employers reward and customers love, so everyone is happy. My name is Jules. I am actually an on-camera coach, so I help people show up more confidently on camera, and I help to host these sessions as well. And I want to introduce you now to the rest of the panel. If you were kind of on before we went live, officially went live, we mentioned Shah. She is a people strategist with Comp Team. She isn't going to be with us today, but she'll be back next week. She's getting scuba certified right now. So we will miss her today, but she'll be back. And we also have Sumit joining us today. And so he has such an outstanding amount of experience in the world of HR. He's consulted for so many huge global brands like Deloitte, Accenture. So, we're very, very lucky to have him here today joining us on this convo. And then we have Sam. So Sam is the founder and CEO of Comp Team. He's the reason that we are able to be here each and every week. And he's actually going to be leading today's conversation. So normally we have an external speaker, but today we're keeping things a little intimate. We're going to have Sumit and Sam chatting to us today about creating a workplace that attracts and motivates the best people. So just want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor before we get started. TMA is our sponsor. And if you want to stick around to the very end, we're actually going to give you an opportunity to get a free assessment through TMA. And this is really a great way to find out your strengths, your talents, where your talents lie, in order to find a position that best aligns with you and your skill set. Because there's no point in doing something, like jumping into customer service if you don't really like people, right? So stick around to the end. We'll give you an opportunity to get your assessment, and it is free. And also too, we want these sessions to be really interactive. So don't be shy. Feel free to leave comments and questions in the chat box. I will be going through those as well and getting those answered live. And if you are on, another streaming service, don't worry, we will get those questions answered right after the session. So do put those in there for us. We love receiving them. And Sam, if you're ready, we can just jump on into the conversation.
Sounds good, Jules. Yes. So a lot of fun things to talk about today. I mean, as we kicked off the conversation earlier in our pre-session discussion, we were talking about creating workplaces and what the workplace of the future will look like. I mean, right now, we've, as I mentioned a few moments ago, people have gone through so much in the past year and a half. They've realized that, hey, the desire to live life and have that flexibility is more stronger than ever. And having a workplace that is going to facilitate and be able to be flexible, to know the desires of the workforce and to provide that flexibility so everybody can have a little bit of extra fun in their life and will create a more of an engaged environment overall. So I think that's the big theme. And are you seeing some of the same pressures in your practice there, Sumit?
Yes and no, Sam. So of course, the conversation is a lot more around, and I've seen it change over the last, say, 8 or 10 years from work-life balance to work-life integration. So we used to think of work and life almost as opposite sides of a coin, and you had to somehow strike a balance between the two. But now, specifically thanks to the pandemic, we've got work and life happening at the same venue. So there's no disconnect, there's no downtime really. And it's funny, so I ran a poll a few weeks ago about whether people miss their commutes to work or not. And interestingly, more than 1/3 of the people said they actually miss their commute to work because a little bit of an opportunity to kind of detach themselves from work and non-work time and give them some kind of a window in between. So yeah. I think that need to unwind, that need to relax and be ready for enjoying work and enjoying life definitely is there. Just that it's becoming a little more stark now.
Yeah, and I think that's a good point. I mean, it really depends on your work style and how your work is, depending on if you're more work-life integrated or if you like to separate those and have a little break in between, so that when you're at home, you're 100% home time, and when you're at work, you're 100% work time. I mean, there's different types of environments and styles that people like to do there. Yeah. So what I want to do is just talk, go through the pieces of how to create a workplace that matters. And so as we're thinking about this, there's elements of how we are looking about, motivating our workforce. How do we engage, and then finally reward? And so as we can see, what's happening here is that first is we're looking at, empowering people to succeed. Then we're trying to enable them so that they can do their best work, and then also recognize and reward them with things that matter to them specifically in the workplace. And so in doing that, there's a lot of different things that we look at, and I'm going to go through this in great detail. We call the process the Workforce Experience Scorecard, or WX Scorecard. So this is a way to where we're going to look at a variety of different factors in the workplace to measure, it's almost like a gap analysis. We're looking in, we're doing an evaluation on you can do this at your company, or you're looking at specific factors, determining their strengths and possible weaknesses across the organization. And so a good way to do this is this analysis to evaluate the employee value proposition that you have, is that you can give out a survey on certain topics, and then you can do a in-person interview. There's a lot of ways you can gather this information. But the important part is that we need to, when we're thinking about the workplace experience, this is not the same thing as the pulse surveys you get, or the employee surveys that you give on a regular basis. I mean, this is something that is designed specifically to determine the strength of your employer value proposition, or the workplace experience. So as we go into this process, we're going to talk about a lot of these different factors, from vision, leadership, direction, teamwork. We're going to go into how how managers empower their people, how those people have impact across the organization. Then we're going to talk about how to hire right, and ensuring that you have that good personal value alignment. So the values of the people that you hire are aligned with those of the company. We're going to talk about fulfillment. And this is where, where we have balance in our life, that we can grow in our career. We can do the things that we're trying to do at home, and the business is flexible to our particular stage in life that we have. And then finally, we're going to talk about those reward elements, such as, the affiliation, or being affiliated with a company that has a great culture or purpose out there. And then other elements of reward, such as developing your people, and feel like you're investing in them, making sure that you're recognizing them for doing their best work. And then also those pieces that just need to be right, such as compensation and benefits for your workforce. And so we're going to talk about each of those pieces together.
It makes so much sense, Sam, to actually quantify the workforce experience into something like a scorecard. So if I had a penny for every time a client said the employee experience, or the workforce experience is critical to our success, and I would ask them to define it for me, the silence was deafening. And if I had a penny for each of those conversations, I'd be at least a millionaire, if not a billionaire by now. So, I think it's fantastic to be able to quantify, to be able to put some measurable ideas together. And that's probably the strength of the approach that you're talking about. So it's really heartening to see all those factors pillared together.
That's right. When you're thinking about this, the workforce experience, it does kind of draw a blank when you're thinking about, well, what all creates that? And so let's go through that in detail. And starting off with the first section here is the motivation. So the general tenets of motivation and this is how we empower each other to succeed. And so when we're talking about these elements of motivation, the first thing that comes in mind is just having the environment overall that's inspiring. That we're trying to engage that innate motivation in us. Those things that create passion to do our best work. And so the first thing that we're seeing here is vision. And so we've heard tons about vision, and whether it's Simon Sinek is talking about the why, and and different things, and business schools talk about vision and mission. And so this is definitely not a new concept, but let me put it in perspective of what we're talking about here in the workforce experience. So when we're talking about vision, people want to work at a company where they feel inspired, where they're in agreement with where that company is heading and what that company stands for. And so that's the big piece here. Would you agree, Sumit?
Oh, absolutely, Sam. So that's why you wouldn't see, let's say, a medical devices company talking about. So their vision would not be to sell the maximum number of medical devices to the world. They would have a vision which talks about contributing to or building a healthier world. And if that inspires you, nothing like it. So whether it's say education services, whether it's manufacturing, automotive, any firm or any company at all, if the vision is inspiring enough and it aligns with your ideals, that's what will play a large part in motivating you to do a great job.
Mm-hmm. And this applies to all companies. It's like,
Absolutely.
I mean, yeah. So I've been challenged, with certain people come up. Well, I own a car wash outlets that are across several states. It really is a vision and mission really important to me. I mean, it's like, and I would say yes, it is. So in the absence of having a mission or a vision and a mission together in a particular company like that, your workforce is basically coming here there for one purpose and one purpose alone, for to earn their living, and their mindset around why they are working is created by their own paradigm. And so what the vision and mission does is it gives them direction and gives them greater purpose of why the company exists. So this is something that can increase the workforce experience. And so and refocusing the workforce on the greater goal. So in the situation of the car wash, I mean, it's about the vision is really inspiring people that are your workforce, that people come here because they buy these new cars. They're excited about their purchase. A car is a significant chunk of change, right? It's a significant investment for a lot of individuals. And so, and when they get this, they're excited and they want to make sure they take care of their vehicle, and so they take it to the car wash, and they're able to clean and take care of it in a way that's better and more convenient than they would find at their home. And so it's creating that vision of the fact that, hey, we are here to inspire you to feel the best about your vehicle, your brand new purchase, and to get the most enjoyment out of your car. So there's a vision for every company, of course, and to the extent that you have it and it's compelling to your workforce, they'll be more engaged and want to work for your company and be more motivated in their work when they're aligned towards a common vision. Also,
absolutely agreed, Sam.
Yeah, another thing, and I would like to hear if you come across this as well, Sumit, because this is a one issue that I've seen. So a company says, okay, well, I've created, we have a mission and we have a vision and a mission and so forth, and then their vision may be specific to where they want to be, and that's okay. But as far as their mission, they say, okay, we want to be we want to earn X amount of dollars by this amount of time, and so they have that as part of their mission. And as you can imagine, I mean, that can be just fine for certain companies. But when you have a message like that in your vision and mission statement, what are your customers going to think when they read that mission and vision? And what are your employees going to think when they read that mission and vision? If we're a lot of times that, people are saying, well, mission shouldn't be so aspirational. We got to make it tangible and so forth like this. And I would challenge that, because if you're looking at, for instance, we're looking at dollars in this particular situation, we're going to earn X amount of dollars by X amount of time. Well, your customers are going to be saying, well, that's great for you, but what is your mission? What is it good for me? I mean, going to a larger, more, all a larger company that makes more money, how does that impact me as a customer? Well, it doesn't really impact me at all, except I know that you're trying to get money from me, right? And then
Absolutely.
and the same thing from the employees. It's like so they understand the goal. The goal is to make money as part of that mission, but and so they're more money focused. They're not focused on customer service or the experience and so forth. So we need to be careful about what we are communicating both to our customers and our employees in this fashion.
That's a very interesting point, Sam. And in fact, I think by making sure that your vision is aligned to your customers and your employees, that's the only index of success. So one of my favorite examples is I was working with an agrochemical manufacturer. So they used to manufacture pesticides and various kinds of additives for different kinds of chemicals for use in agriculture. And I mean, they could have had something straightforward like our mission is to kill bugs or something of that sort, but their vision was transforming the country through agriculture. And they further elaborated on it by saying, we'd like to make us as a nation self-sufficient in agricultural produce. So that also appealed to their customer base, because the idea was not to simply sell stuff to you. So they had an FMCG kind of a model. So the idea was not just to make maximum sales to you and run off. The idea was that you as the farming community are the people who are at the front lines. The idea is to transform the agricultural practices that we have here so that you're successful, and in your success lies our success. So I think if we can build that kind of messaging, that's what would work really best. And I mean, whether it's a big firm, so this was a relatively small organization, but even if you take bigger companies like say Adobe, their vision is it's a very, very simple statement: creating experiences that matter.
Mm-hmm.
And that can apply to vendors, employees, customers. I can't think of any stakeholder who would not be inspired by that kind of a vision.
Right. Yeah, and that also comes into the next point, Sumit, is into leadership, because having a vision and mission statement is very benign unless you communicate it well. You need to communicate and remind your workforce of your greater purpose of why we're here. And so that's quite important. So leadership needs to be able to communicate this. And also on the other aspect of leadership and why it's so important as far as the workforce value proposition or the workforce experience is, when an employee or is going to make a choice to work at a particular company, I mean, it's an investment of their time in their expertise and so forth. And so if they're thinking about this seriously, they're going to be concerned about who's at the helm. And I often explain this by, if you can just imagine, the pre-colonial days in in America, when we were all in Europe and we're going out to go explore America and in this new country. And if you can imagine people going down to the docks to buy a ticket on a boat that's going to take them across the ocean, right? Well, those days were a little bit more dangerous than they are today. It's not like you just buy a plane ticket on a major airline. I mean, you gotta think about, okay, well, who's the captain of this boat? Has this captain ever successfully made it over to America and back? And have they done this several times? You're gonna be interested in the track record and the success. And of course, if you get on this boat and the captain starts going in circles and then you see some other boat goes straight across, you're going to wish that you were on that other boat, right? So it's the same thing. It's the same thing with leadership in companies. I mean, if you don't have a strong, proven leadership, or at least a good plan of competence, then you're not going to attract employees, or they're going to leave you to go to another potentially another company that does have good leadership.
Absolutely. And in fact, a less dangerous example than the one you shared that comes to mind is that of excuse me, sports teams. So as a player who wants to win, who wants to not just earn the big money, but who actually wants medals, who wants trophies, um, you look for the right club, and you also check whether they've got the right manager in place or not. So what is the manager's project? What are they trying to achieve? I mean, even without that, you can keep earning the big money. You can get a big name, and you can retire by the time you're 35 with a lot of wealth at your disposal. But the really good players, they're motivated by what's the vision of the club, who's at the helm, like you said. So what vision does the coach have? What kind of a system do they have? And how motivated are you to be a part of that that kind of a setup?
Mm-hmm. And that's a good segue as well into the next piece. I mean, in a sports analogy, we often are working with teams, and so that's another piece where an employee is interested in learning how does the company work internally. You know, if you're a person or the type of person that likes to work with a team of people that are very competent, that you can rely on one another, and you can enjoy the work environment. There's companies that provide that. If you're a person that likes to work alone or a solo and be in charge of your own merit, you know, there's companies that provide that as well. And so teamwork is very important to understand what's going on and is it going to be creating a work environment that's best aligned to you as an employee. And employers need to think the same way when they're hiring. Is this a team-oriented person because we're a team-oriented company, or vice versa? So it's very interesting. It's very important to understand that team environment. Yeah. The other thing that we have here that kind of rounds out the motivation section of the workforce experience scorecard is also the ability that the organization provides structured direction. So there's companies of all stages here. I mean, there's some companies that they hire established professionals that come in and they can work in a degree of ambiguity, and they like that. They like putting their own spin on that structure and putting that together. And then there's other companies that maybe hire younger, more inexperienced staff that needs a little bit more handholding and direction on and developing their skills. And so it's important for you to understand where you are as a company and understand the type of talent you're trying to attract, and having and giving the amount of direction that is required for that demographic. So that's quite important.
Agreed, and absolutely. So direction and teamwork, I think they're the pieces that bring the relative intangibles of vision and leadership to life, and they're more easily observable than whether people are aligned to the vision or whether they buy into the leadership or not.
Mm-hmm. Great. So let's go to the next piece here that we're going to be talking about, and this is engagement. So this is how we work together for shared success. And often when I talk about working together, we're not just talking about managers and employees, but we also have to think about our customer together. This is what I call the three-legged stool concept, when we're, you know, the three pieces that run a business are the company, you know, which includes the management and so forth, and then your workforce or your coworkers, and then also your customers, those people that enjoy your products and services. And so when we're looking at engagement, it's important for us to create a biome that engages all of those factors. And so we're going to talk a little about that in detail. So the first part of this is empowerment. We're talking about empowerment. We're talking about different ways of empowering our employees to do their best work in the organization. And so when we look at this, it's ensuring that we have those regular touch points. I mean, a lot of in America we call those one-on-ones and so forth, where employees and managers get together on a regular basis and they talk about the work and performance and obstacles and making sure that they're in sync. Now, and I know that they have this all across the globe as well, Smith, but would you add anything there as far as how managers and employees communicate?
So I think there definitely is a cultural angle to it, Sam. And what I've observed in my part of the world is that managers have to work a little extra hard to empower people, because the way we are wired is we look to people in positions of authority to give us direction. And honestly, a manager who's saying, fine, you decide how you want to approach this, people might actually start thinking of that manager as a little incompetent or as not doing their job, whereas actually they're just empowering you. So at least in India, and I think in certain parts of Asia, there are conversations around empowerment which need to be had to set the right expectations and manage them as well.
Mm-hmm. Right. Well, I think that the important part here, and especially as we're moving, more companies are moving away from the traditional annual performance review to something that is more real time and so forth. It's important to have these conversations for that around performance and enablement. Things should be covered in these conversations, such as, hey, do you have everything you need to do your best work? Is there any development or training that is required for you to get to the next level or to get over this, beyond this obstacle? There needs to be shared accountability across performance as they're talking about this. And so this is part of the work experience, where if an employee knows that they're going to come into a situation and they're going to be supported by their manager, and they're going to have they're going to be able to do their best work, because they're going to be work together with their management and team to remove obstacles so they can pursue their best work, that becomes a more compelling and more retentive work environment. So this is quite important. The next piece on this is impact. And so when we talk about impact, let's think about this from a big company to small company perspective first. So a lot of individuals, they will want to work for a larger firm for the affiliation and the prestige of working with that company, the established brand and what it means for a mission and so forth. But some of the downsides they have of working at a larger organization is that if they're starting out there, they're buried in the infrastructure, right? And the amount of impact that they have to the end customer is somewhat more, it's more limited. And in a smaller company, that is reversed. And so there's a smaller company, there's less people, less layers, and more direct customer and company impact for an employee. And so it's a different value proposition. So when I often have companies come to me and say, well, we got to, how am I going to compete with Apple, or how am I going to compete with Google? And it's like, well, it's not, you don't want to compete on the same grounds, that their value proposition is going to be quite different than yours. I mean, they have, may be able to afford a larger pay package. They have different elements of the employee experience that they can provide. But when we're looking at smaller companies that are competing with those larger companies, they can have more or quicker career advancement, more types of job duties that they can explore, and they can have definitely more impact on the organization and the customer. So there's definitely a different value proposition.
And that's probably why many mid-career people in larger firms, they start moving towards smaller ones, because they're not they're not looking to be cogs in a large machine. They really want to create more impact. They really want to be more in control of what they're doing. So of course, one can create, which is not to say that larger companies don't create impact or people cannot be impactful in them. But there are people who like higher degrees of empowerment away from strict policies and controls and processes, and more opportunities to create impact, which is where their engagement leads them into this kind of a setup. So what's your opinion on that, Sam?
No, I think that's exactly right. But what I often come across in other avenues of impact that's very important is how the leadership embraces this. And so a lot of times that we've just talked about impact in the context of the employee and the employee experience. But what's often missing is leaders have a specific role to play here. And once again, this is in the value of the one-on-one or even more senior leaderships reaching out to the organization and asking advice and opinions from those lower in the organization. A lot of individuals low in the organization don't feel like they have good leadership access and the leadership is not reaching out to them to hear what they think and about the business and how the impact on the customer is. So we often encourage leaders to reach out and have good communication with all levels of the organization to solicit feedback about what's actually going on at their level of the organization, and ensure that those voices are heard, so those people can feel like they're more connected to leadership, they're more connected to the organization, and they can have an impact.
Agreed. So in fact, it just struck me some of the aspects we spoke about, like vision and leadership, and also the impact. I'd say a lot of it also depends on how well or how badly it's communicated. So one story which just popped into my head was that there are these two men who are laying bricks for a building, and somebody comes up and asks the first guy, what exactly is it that you're doing? And he gets a little annoyed and says, can't you see I'm laying bricks? This person goes to the second person and says, what exactly is it that you're doing? He says, I'm building a cathedral. So, I mean, I think it talks to the vision part of it and the impact part of it, and the fact that it's not only a leader's responsibility to convey these things to you. As an employee, you also, or as a team member, it's something that you need to demand as well, that I need to know what is the impact that I'm making. Am I just a paper pusher or just sitting at a desk, or what exactly is the impact of the actions that I'm taking on a day-to-day basis?
That's right, and it's good to be reminded about that overall vision on a regular basis of why we're doing this. And sometimes we're in the middle of the minutia of work, and we might be doing a task that we particularly don't enjoy or something. But when we have the mindset of the greater purpose, then it's more understood of why we need to do this and why we need to get through this particular hurdle. So very important there. Great point, Sumit.
Thank you.
Now, the next piece here that we need to talk about is personal value, and also how it's related to fulfillment. Now, personal value is quite important, especially when you're recruiting people for your organization, when you're sourcing the correct people. And so the important thing with personal value is to ensure that you're bringing people into your company that have values that are aligned with the company values. Now, it's if you have a mismatch here, then you can create big problems in your culture and dissatisfaction, and actually bring in a person that could be at odds with the overall culture. And I think that for a metaphor that we used, I think a couple of weeks ago, is having a bad apple in the bunch, right? So, which means that a bad apple can spoil the bunch of good apples that you might have in your barrel, right? So that's the reason why you need to make sure that your personal value is aligned. There's not everyone is a good fit for your company and so forth, and so it's important to hire right in this capacity. The other thing is to ensure that how can we ensure that leaders enforce or encourage the alignment of personal value? Well, they need to talk about values. And so, we often, from a business school perspective, we say, okay, it's good to set up a mission and a vision and have values and all these things. But really, how do we put these things to work? I mean, they're not just words on a paper or checking the box on something. We really need to make it work. And so this is where the values piece comes in, and the reason why it's important to communicate values across the organization. One is it gives the overall guidance of how we should act and behave on a regular basis, and those values help keep us in certain guide rails of what's acceptable in the organization. And the next is, like we mentioned, is making sure you're hiring right. So the other piece is closely related to this is fulfillment. Now, fulfillment has it's closely related with the type of people you're trying to hire in the organization and how you're retaining them throughout the work experience. For instance, as you know, we all go through different stages of life. I mean, we start out as getting out of college or that trade school, and we're entering the workforce, and we're green. We have low experience, right? And we need some help getting established and getting that experience in place. And then as we become a developed professional, we're interested in that growth. We're interested in wealth accumulation and focused on the work and building our talents. And then we meet that special someone that we want to spend some time with and invest time in, and perhaps have a family. And then things take a different turn. I mean, we're focused at home. We're focused at work. There's a lot of different things that we're concerned about. Those kids, they develop, they go into, perhaps we are investing for their school or launching them into the world. And then we enter a different cycle of life when we're back with our spouse, and we're starting to think about retirement, or what does the end game look like for me of where I'm going to finally have time to relax, if that ever happens, right? So those different phases of life. Now, how can your business navigate through all these different phases? To the extent that you're not willing to navigate your workforce through these different phases, you're going to have more turnover, right? So it's important for us to think about this as an employer, and think about these different sets or stages of our employees and how to manage those and create programs that are compelling to them at certain times.
Absolutely. And just thinking about that, Sam, I think it's probably also why a lot of employers now, they provide opportunities to contribute back to the community in different ways. So there are, you can donate a certain percentage of your salary. So there are giving programs where large companies like Accenture, they've got these systems where you can decide to donate a certain percentage of your salary increase or your even your paycheck to a good cause, and you can select the cause yourself. There are also employer-run schools and animal sanctuaries and stuff like that, where you can feel more fulfilled. So, of course, fulfillment at work is one part of it. Fulfillment in terms of giving back to the community and doing something to make the world better than it was when we first came into it. I think that's another part of it.
Yeah, no, I think that's a good point, Sumit, and that's absolutely a piece where a lot of the workforce is looking for in their employer. They want to donate their time or give their time to an employer that is going to have a strong vision and is not all in it for themselves. They're in it for the community. They're in for the global community as well. So it's quite important today. And that brings us into some of the pieces of reward. And so this is how, once again, how company, customers, and coworkers all share in success. And there's different factors here, such as we talked about culture a little bit, and this is cultural and culture in the aspect of being affiliated with this particular company. Is it a culture of purpose? It's not the fact that do we have a pinball machine and lounge chairs in the break room. Do we have a culture of innovation? Are we known as innovators here? Are we known as stewards of the environment? And typically, of course, when you're looking at your purposeful culture, you want to make sure that that's very aligned with your vision and so forth. And so this is a very compelling area, for it rewards people on a regular basis to be affiliated with your company and to be employed there. This is the reward for being there.
And what I really like about this, the graphic here, Sam, is the fact that culture fits under reward, because how I like to view it is that working in a great culture is a reward in itself. So there is research which actually says that working for the right culture building a great culture has monetary value, and people would be happier to take a paycheck, to take a pay cut and work for a great culture than to be highly paid, but in a culture of toxicity. So I think it's absolutely brilliant that the scorecard has culture and reward so closely intertwined.
Totally agree. And of course, a lot of people would say this whole experience here is part of culture. And that is true. But in this particular context, we're talking about a purposeful culture and a culture that creates affiliation, which is the reward aspect. So then the next piece here is development. And so when people are and this is in a reward category, because when people come and invest their time into an organization, they want to feel like that they're being invested in, that they're going to have some sort of gain from their affiliation with that company. And this either comes in the fact of career advancement, or it comes into having more breadth and depth of your particular skill set, becoming an expert or a known expert, or becoming perhaps a manager, or entering into project management field track. So there's a lot of things when we look at development that is important for everyone. Even when we're looking at those senior leaders, there's development that's needed. We often feel, a lot of companies feel that, well, we don't need to develop our leaders because they've learned through experience and they're all knowing. Well, in today's world, we know that is not true. I mean, the world changes around us. The environment creates elements for new learning all the time. So everyone needs to learn. So companies that have mentorship programs and reverse mentorship programs to help foster internal learning is a great advantage of retention and rewarding those individuals to be successful in their career. The next thing here, go ahead, Smith, you're going to say something?
Yes, I was just thinking about development. So one, of course, is the formal developmental programs, and there, of course, have been organizations that have been known for their investments on that front. The other is also developing by working with the right people and working with some of the best in the industry. So I don't know what you think about that as the development pillar, but I think that would also be valuable. So as they say that you should never really be the smartest person in the room. So if you want to keep learning, it's a good idea to surround yourself with people who are way smarter than you are, so that you can get some of that learning, and it kind of rubs off on you.
Yeah, that's a good point. I mean, I think that, and that's getting back to your favorite sports analogies there, Sumit. I don't know if, and I'm sure everybody might have had some experience when they go and play with for instance, playing tennis. I notice this every time I play tennis with my kids. I go out there and we're knocking the ball around, and I'm fumbling up as much as they are. But then I go and play with my brother-in-law, who's an avid tennis player. I have to up my game. I feel I've gained some skill set here, and I'm able to return the ball here and there. And so, the people around you have great influence on your ability to perform and inspire you to perform. And so I think that's exactly right, Sumit.
So in this case, I wasn't actually thinking of sports. I was thinking of Sir Isaac Newton, and he he said something brilliant, which was, "If I have seen further, it is by standing on the shoulders of giants." So he was trying to explain that his accomplishments came only because a lot of other people had done some great work, and he was able to interpret some of it to build something of value. So I think that kind of sums up development for me.
Yeah. And this is a good point, and on also thinking about how this relates with recognition, because I'll tell you a story about that relates to this. When I was at Barclays in my career, earlier in my career, as part of their innovative investment group, where they were creating these innovative investment products. This is where iShares was developed. If anybody knows what exchange traded funds are, way back then, it was a new concept. And so they were all around innovation. And so how to foster innovation with your reward programs, what they would do is they would have an annual event, where everyone in the company was able to participate in this event around innovation, from the highest level to the lowest level. It didn't make any difference if you were a portfolio manager or a janitor. You were involved in this innovation piece. And so the challenge was, in your area, what are the top innovations that you can do to improve the experience of our customers, or the workplace experience. And so that challenge was issued to everyone. And sometimes it was, you would get portfolio managers coming up with this new innovation or this new technique that was able to generate more return, or a better customer experience, or something internally, as being able to, we're going to get rid of these reports and enhance these reports and do these things for the better internal working area. And so all of this was gathered, and a committee was put together to evaluate all the entrants of innovation that came through, and they would give recognition to those that moved the needle the most, and give out rewards. And it didn't make any difference what level it was. You had this element of recognition. So this is an area where we can look at development. So we can challenge people to look beyond their current role and look at others in the organization for innovation concepts, and also have that recognition component built into it for an overall reward package that makes a difference and moves the needle as a company. So a great program, I thought. Oh, and then it brings us to the final pillar here, and this. I am in the compensation business, as you all know. I advise companies on not only the talent experience, but how to focus behaviors through pay programs and so forth. But and as I created this model, I put comp and benefits as its own pillar. This one little pillar out of this entire workforce experience. Now, the reason why that is because all this other stuff needs to be working and function. And to the extent that you have a weak employee value proposition, compensation has to go up. And if you have a strong employee value proposition, compensation doesn't have to be as competitive. It can be at the lower end of the scale. It always needs to be within a competitive range, but where you are in that range depends on how strong your employee value proposition is. So it's a compensation and benefits is a place that we need to make sure that is right. And to the extent that you have all these other things in place, we can use it to focus behaviors and focus performance in certain roles. And it needs to be used appropriately for the appropriate type of jobs. As we talked in earlier sessions, there's those that are intrinsically motivated and those that are extrinsically motivated, and compensation and recognition needs to be used differently in those different types of roles. It's very important to understand the balance in each of those. So as we go through, go ahead.
Sorry. So I was saying that one of the underrated components here is the benefits part of it. And I was reading some research which says that more than 80% of people in the US, they don't even open their benefits manuals. So they only start looking at benefits when they're trying to look at, say, health insurance and when the need arises. But it's a great way to tell people that benefits have monetary and non-monetary value, and they add a lot to your entire employment experience or the workforce experience.
Mhm. Point taken, Sumit. Great. So as we look at all this, and you're doing this analysis at your company, you're looking at the workforce experience and you're evaluating these concepts, you're going to come out with a pattern here where you can say that there's some strengths and weaknesses across the organization. And in this particular graphic, or what I'm showing here on the screen, is that there's some that are in green, which is green is good, red is bad, yellow is kind of mixed in the middle. And so if we look at this particular company, they have strong vision and leadership, very good leadership, and therefore great teamwork, and those leaders can empower their employees to do their best work, and perhaps even develop them well, and have good pay and benefits. But perhaps they have a real problem in hiring the right people. And so if they hire people that are not aligned with the organization's values, then those people are going to have problems with the particular fulfillment, or achieving they're being feel fulfilled in their job. And perhaps that might even hurt recognition, because since their values, or they're operating differently at a different value standpoint from than the company is, they're probably not going to get a lot of attention or recognition as doing a great job, or doing a job that's aligned with the company values. So that could suffer. And then also that will slowly drag on the culture, as we mentioned earlier, as far as having that bad apple in the bunch, right? So that the more that you hire people that are not aligned with personal values, the more trouble you're going to find long term. And this brings in the reason why we're big fans of the TMA method, as we mentioned earlier, is because the TMA method, through the assessments that this tool gives, we give an assessment to our workforce, and it's based on positive psychology. There's no right and wrong answer. It's basically learning about their work style and preferences, and how they work together, and how you interact with them. And it's a launch pad for career development, and competency development, and advancement and happiness in your organization. So it's a great tool that can help facilitate this workforce experience, as we were mentioning. So in this, if you would like to sign up for a demo and learn more about the TMA method, feel free to reach out to me, or just at sam@compteam.net, and I'll be happy to send you an assessment so you can see what that looks like, and we can and I'll go through that assessment with you, or Sumit, or one of us, or we'll go through that with you to let you know what it means. Hi, Jules.
Hey, I'm popping back in. I was gonna, normally I come in 10 minutes before, but you were on a roll, so I didn't want to interrupt. And we didn't really have any questions, but if anyone has any last minute questions, now's the time to drop them in the chat. But I hope you really enjoyed this. I was scribbling notes on my phone this whole time. I'm like, okay, because there's a lot we can take away from this, whether you're an employee or an employer. I think it's so applicable to both sides, and it shows you what to look for if you're going for a new job in a company, and if you are hiring, it works the other way around. So I love this. Thank you, Sam. Thank you, Sumit. This was great. I'm sure everyone else enjoyed it. You can drop some comments, let us know what you thought. And I also just loved the pillars. It's just like the roadmap. It gives you exactly what factors you need to consider. And to break it down, I guess you just really need to find people that align with your values, give them all the tools that they need to just empower them, motivate them, and to help move the needle in your company, and then reward them for doing so. So it's just like a nice, it breaks down so nicely, makes it so easy. So definitely get that free assessment if you haven't done it already. It's a great way, again, to see your strengths, your talents, maybe your weaknesses, what you're good at, because then that way it'll help you align, because we've been talking a lot about alignment. So definitely jump on that. So thank you again, Sam and Sumit. You guys are great. And actually, speaking of Sumit, you're going to be our guest speaker, well, not guest, leading the conversation next week. So we have preparing the leaders for the future. Did you want to chat a bit about that so people can kind of know what to expect for next week?
Oh, yes, absolutely. Thank you. So firstly, thank you, Sam, for the brilliant conversation. It's always insightful. I'm sure the audience enjoyed the conversation. I certainly did. And next week, we'll talk about how to take succession plans off the table into real life and make them actually work, make them part of the overall talent management strategy, and in a way also tie into the development agenda of the workforce experience scorecard.
Great. Yeah, I'm looking forward to that conversation with you, Smith. That's going to be great.
Looking forward to that, Sam.
All right. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. It was great having you. And if you're on one of the other platforms, Facebook or LinkedIn, and please leave your comments or questions there and we'll get back to you on those. But thank you everyone for joining us today.
Thank you again, everyone. We'll see you next week, same time.
All right. Take care.
All right. Bye.
Thank you. Have a good week. Bye.
Fantastic week.